Welcome to Book Nibbles, Big Ideas, Small Bites. Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein's Nudge is a book about how people make decisions and, more importantly, how those decisions can be improved without heavy-handed control or coercion. The authors introduce the idea that in almost every situation in life, from choosing what to eat for lunch to deciding how much money to save for retirement, our choices are influenced not only by our preferences, but also by how the options are presented to us. They call this choice architecture, a term that refers to the design of the environment in which people make decisions. The central argument is that since humans are not perfectly rational beings who weigh every option with cold, calculating precision, we need help making better decisions, help that still preserves our freedom to choose. That help comes in the form of nudges, gentle pushes in a better direction that guide people toward more beneficial outcomes, without restricting their ability to pick something else if they truly want to. The authors begin with the observation that humans are predictably irrational, something that had already been explored in works by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. But Thaler, being one of the founders of behavioral economics, takes the discussion into the realm of public policy and daily decision-making. They distinguish between two systems of thinking, the automatic system and the reflective system. The automatic system is fast, intuitive, emotional, and often unconscious. It's the part of us that quickly decides which sandwich looks tastier in a cafeteria line or which shirt to buy because it feels right. The reflective system, on the other hand, is slower, deliberate, logical, and effortful. It's what we use when calculating mortgage payments or planning a complex project at work. Both systems are essential, but the automatic one often leads us astray because it is influenced by biases, heuristics, and framing effects. Nudges work precisely because they take into account the ways our automatic system functions. A classic example they use to illustrate this is the arrangement of food in a school cafeteria. Suppose the cafeteria manager notices that students eat more fruits and vegetables when these are placed at eye level, while less healthy options like French fries or candy bars are consumed more when they are the first items in the line. The manager could use this insight to redesign the cafeteria layout so that healthier choices are easier to access and more visually prominent. Importantly, no items are removed and no restrictions are imposed. Students still have the freedom to choose fries if they want, but the subtle nudge toward healthier options results in better overall nutrition. This example embodies what Thaler and Sunstein call libertarian paternalism, a phrase that sounds contradictory at first, but actually encapsulates their philosophy. It is paternalistic in the sense that it tries to steer people toward choices that improve their welfare, yet libertarian because it does not limit freedom or block alternatives. The book provides dozens of examples across different domains: health, finance, the environment, and even marriage. One of the strongest domains where nudges are impactful is in saving for retirement. People often say they want to save more money, yet they delay enrolling in savings plans or contribute too little because of procrastination, inertia, or the confusing array of options. When companies change their retirement plans so that employees are automatically enrolled unless they opt out, participation rates skyrocket. This is because the default option has incredible power over decision-making. Most people go along with whatever the default is, not out of deep conviction, but out of convenience and the avoidance of effort. This simple change, making saving the default rather than not saving, can dramatically improve financial security for millions without anyone being forced. It is a nudge, not a shove. Another related strategy is called Save More Tomorrow, which Thaler himself helped pioneer. The idea is that instead of asking employees to increase their savings contribution immediately, which feels painful, they are asked to commit in advance to saving a portion of their future salary increases. People are more willing to agree to save future money than current money because it doesn't feel like a loss. Over time, as salaries rise, savings rates climb substantially, yet employees never feel deprived. This clever use of behavioral insights demonstrates how understanding human psychology can lead to policies that are both popular and effective. The book also discusses how choice architecture applies to complex areas like healthcare. For instance, when people are presented with too many options for prescription drug plans or health insurance, they often make poor choices or fail to make any choice at all. Overchoice leads to paralysis. Imagine standing in a grocery store aisle with 24 different types of jam. Studies show that people confronted with fewer options are actually more likely to make a purchase and feel satisfied afterward. Similarly, in healthcare, simplifying the menu of choices or structuring the information in a clear, user-friendly way can dramatically improve outcomes. A nudge here might involve highlighting the plan that is best for most people or creating a default plan that suits the majority, while still giving freedom for anyone to select differently. An important theme throughout the book is the power of framing. How information is presented can radically affect decisions. For example, when surgeons tell patients that 90% of people survive a certain operation, patients are more likely to consent than if the surgeon says 10% of people die. The factual content is identical, but the framing produces different reactions because humans are more sensitive to losses than gains. This ties into a concept from prospect theory, which Kahneman and Tversky developed. Loss aversion. People hate losing something more than they like gaining something of equivalent value. Nudges often harness this tendency by reframing choices so that better options feel like avoiding losses rather than chasing gains. One of the most compelling stories in Nudge concerns organ donation. In countries where the default is that people are donors unless they opt out, donation rates are extremely high. In countries where people must actively opt in, donation rates are far lower, even though surveys show most citizens support organ donation in principle. The difference lies in the default. By changing the default to opt out, more lives are saved without restricting freedom, since anyone can still refuse if they feel strongly about it. It's a perfect illustration of how a small nudge can yield enormous societal benefits. Thaler and Sunstein are careful to point out that nudges are everywhere, whether intentional or not. There is no such thing as a neutral choice architecture, because the way options are arranged, the defaults chosen, and the order of presentation always shape outcomes. If a cafeteria manager randomly places food without thinking, that randomness still influences consumption patterns. The question then is not whether to nudge, but how to nudge responsibly. This is where ethics enters the conversation. Critics of nudging sometimes argue that it is manipulative, treating people as irrational children. The authors respond by emphasizing transparency, accountability, and the preservation of choice. Good nudges are those that align with people's own long-term interests, help them achieve what they would choose if they had full information and unlimited willpower, and are easy to avoid if someone truly wants to. Bad nudges, on the other hand, exploit cognitive biases for profit, such as when credit card companies design confusing fee structures that trap consumers. The key is distinguishing between helpful and harmful nudges. The authors also explore the role of social norms as powerful nudges. People often look to others when making decisions, especially in uncertain situations. If hotel guests are told that most other guests reuse their towels, they are more likely to do the same compared to when they are simply told that reusing towels saves the environment. This is because humans are deeply social creatures who don't want to stand out negatively. Social comparisons are similarly effective in reducing energy consumption. When households receive bills showing how their electricity usage compares to their neighbors, many reduce consumption if they are above average. Those who are already below average might even increase usage unless the message includes a smiley face or other positive reinforcement that nudges them to keep conserving. These examples show that nudges can be as subtle as a sentence or symbol, yet their effects are measurable and lasting. A particularly interesting discussion arises around credit cards and financial products. People often underestimate the compounding effect of interest, leading them to accumulate large debts. Here, a nudge might involve clearer disclosure, such as prominently displaying how long it would take to pay off a balance if only the minimum payment is made. Instead of just showing percentages or interest rates, which many people struggle to interpret, a practical nudge translates the numbers into time and cost, making the consequences tangible. Similarly, simplifying mortgage paperwork or car loan terms can help consumers avoid traps. The book is peppered with stories that illustrate the gap between our intentions and actions. One classic problem is procrastination. We tell ourselves we'll start exercising tomorrow, eat healthier next week, or save money next month. But tomorrow never comes, and we stay stuck. Nudges help bridge this gap by making good choices easier in the moment. Pre-commitment devices, like setting up automatic savings transfers or blocking certain websites during work hours are nudges we design for ourselves. They help align our present selves with the goals of our future selves. Ulysses tying himself to the mast to resist the siren song is the ancient example of such a device. Thaler and Sunstein extend the idea of nudges into public policy. They argue that governments, like cafeteria managers, are always structuring choices whether they admit it or not. A tax form, for example, is a piece of choice architecture. The order of questions, the defaults, the clarity of instructions, all influence compliance and accuracy. Policymakers can design better forms, better websites, better information displays, and thereby improve outcomes without heavy regulation. They emphasize that nudges are not substitutes for laws or bans when serious harms are at stake. Seatbelt requirements or bans on lead paint remain justified. But for many issues where freedom and diversity of preference matter, nudges strike a balance. The storytelling style of the book makes these ideas engaging, but what keeps the reader hooked are the endless everyday applications. You begin to notice nudges in your own life. The arrangement of snacks at the checkout counter, the pre-check boxes when signing up for an online service, the reminders from your dentist, the placement of apps on your phone screen. All of these shape your behavior. Some nudges are benign, some are manipulative, and some are empowering. The book encourages you to become both a more aware chooser and a more thoughtful choice architect for others, whether you're a parent, manager, policymaker, or designer. One subtle but powerful nudge the authors discuss is simplification. People often fail to enroll in government benefits programs they qualify for because the paperwork is confusing or the process is intimidating. By reducing complexity, simplifying forms, or using plain language, participation increases dramatically. A nudge in this case is not about tricking people, but about removing unnecessary friction that prevents them from acting in their own best interest. This idea resonates deeply in the modern world, where complexity and information overload often paralyze decision-making. Another area where nudges have enormous potential is environmental policy. For example, designing energy bills to show the environmental impact of consumption, or automatically enrolling households in green energy programs unless they opt out, can have significant ecological benefits. Similarly, framing carbon taxes as a carbon dividend for households, emphasizing the money returned rather than the money taken, makes such policies more palatable. Again, the underlying principle is that how choices are presented matters as much as the choices themselves. By the time one finishes Nudge, the cumulative effect of all these examples is a transformed perspective on human decision-making. You start to see that much of what we consider free choice is heavily influenced by defaults, frames, norms, and context. The brilliance of the book lies in showing that this influence is not inherently bad. It can be designed for good, but it also requires vigilance because the same tools can be used for exploitation. The author's philosophy of libertarian paternalism aims to steer a middle path, embracing both freedom and guidance. The book is also sprinkled with humor, especially from Thaler, whose wit keeps the tone light even when discussing technical ideas. He pokes fun at human foibles, often including himself, reminding us that none of us are perfectly rational. This self-awareness makes the message less preachy and more relatable. We laugh at our own procrastination, our tendency to misjudge risks, our habit of sticking with defaults, and we nod in recognition at how true these patterns feel in our daily lives. Ultimately, Nudge is not just about policy or economics, it's about living better. The small decisions we make every day, what to eat, how to spend, when to exercise, whether to recycle, add up to the quality of our lives and the health of our communities. By understanding nudges, we can design environments that support our better selves rather than undermine them. We can become more mindful of the forces shaping our choices and, when possible, reshape those forces for good. It is a book that empowers readers to ask critical questions. What is the default in this situation and why? How is this information being framed? Am I being nudged in a direction I truly want to go? Or am I being manipulated? And equally, how can I structure choices for my children, my employees, or my community in ways that make good decisions easier without taking away freedom? These questions linger long after the final page because once you start noticing nudges, you see them everywhere. In the end, nudge is both practical and philosophical. It challenges the illusion of perfect rationality while still respecting human dignity. It doesn't suggest that people should be forced into good decisions, but that they should be gently guided in ways that align with their own goals and values. It's about making the path of least resistance also the path of greater well-being. And that, perhaps, is the greatest insight. That small, well-designed pushes can lead to big changes, not by shoving people, but by making their better choices easier and more natural. And that's it. Nudge by Richard H. Thaler and Cass R. Sunstein. Thanks for listening to Book Nibbles. If you enjoyed this bite-sized book, don't forget to subscribe for more quick, insightful summaries. See you in the next nibble.